Public speaking is like any other way of serving content. Your aim should be to hook the audience from the word go. Remember to smile. Everyone likes to be smiled at. Just a brief, genuine smile as you gather your audience will not only initiate connection, but will make you feel less nervous too. Start with action. Children's book publishers know this principle well. They often fault would-be authors for too much build-up. They know kids like you to hit the ground running, straight into the action. And it's the same with public speaking. Forget, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen." Intrigue your audience by asking a quirky question, making them laugh with a clever quote, or swinging straight into an anecdote. Make sure they've stopped rustling through purses and have found their eyeglasses and pens first. Anecdotes should be short and should directly illustrate the point you want to begin with. Change the rules. If you see physical conditions are not helpful to engaging your audience, don't be afraid to change them. Switch off the overhead light and move the floor lamp over. Open a window if it's stuffy and hot. If you're the first speaker at an early morning session and everyone is half asleep, wake them up by playing a very fast icebreaker type game. If they seem hostile and irritable, change their attitude by asking them to move their desks into a semicircle or sit on the floor. Getting your audience to sit on the floor is a trick that professional raconteurs know well. Acclaimed storyteller Hildy Stollery used this to great effect once at a woman's prison. It was miraculous to see these jaded, aggressive women who really didn't want to be there suddenly turn into little children willing to suspend belief for half an hour, she reported. Keeping her words in mind, I used this technique myself to great effect a week later, when I had to command the attention of an entire class full of ADHD children. Let your audience know the rules. If you welcome questions informally during your presentation, let them know, or have the person introducing you let them know. Ditto if you'd prefer they keep all questions till the end. We'll finish with a 10-minute question and answer period, so there will be a chance to ask questions at the end. Ask people to mute their phones if you are speaking online, and tell them how to do so. And if you experience any sort of glitch while making your presentation, verbal or technical, move on. A case in point, the television show Toddlers and Tiaras recently featured a child of 8 or 9 trying to add a party popper to a genie routine. She had previously only practiced with small poppers, but her mother thought a large one would impress the judges much better. The child hadn't used the large one before, and at the crucial moment discovered she didn't have the strength to open it. She didn't waste time after the first few nerve-wracking seconds. Just set it down and moved on. The judges placed her among the winners, and one commented that part of that decision was based on admiration for the professional way the girl didn't miss a beat, but improvised and moved on with poise and grace. Your audience wants you to succeed. They won't judge you for technical glitches or momentary lapses. They'll be right there with you, empathizing and willing your equipment to work. If it doesn't, they'll be grateful to you for staying in control of the presentation by moving on or improvising if you need to, with your attention cheerfully on delivering what they need. Get to know your room. Another tip that has stood me in good stead over the years: get to know your room. The dynamics of speaking to a group will be greatly affected by externals, such as the venue, the time of day, the lighting, the ambient noise level. Are you giving a presentation in the middle of your local mall? On a stage? By a lake? What your audience brings to the transaction. Check out the room or hall in advance, whenever possible. Part of that involves standing or sitting there, making note of its features, and imagining yourself speaking successfully. When you arrive for the actual presentation, you won't be thrown off to find out that you're up on an imposing stage when you were expecting a classroom, or that the lighting turns out to be mercilessly bright and harsh. You will have body memory of the speaking venue, And that sense of familiarity adds to your comfort level when you're ready to present. Getting to know your room online. Yes, absolutely. You can get to know your room online. If you are planning a live performance and you are using a webinar service such as GoToWebinar, you can run through as many practice sessions as you want. Arrive early. Arrive at least half an hour early for any speaking engagement. That way, if you discover your microphone is faulty, you can quickly hunt down the tech or another microphone, or quickly make those extra handout copies for the 30 extra people the organizers decided to add. It also allows you to mingle with those attending the event and get to know them via casual chatting. If making a social connection is something that would add to your comfort when it's time to speak. That way, you can pick audience members you've had positive interactions with and speak to them as a trick for providing a relaxed feeling of connection and calming your own nerves. And the more relaxed you are, the more your audience will enjoy your presentation. The mechanics of speaking. Speaking in front of an audience becomes easier if you remember a few simple vocal tips and tricks. Breathing and voice projection are the key. Let's start with voice projection. All this means is making sure everyone can hear you, even those in the back row. Believe it or not, eye contact helps with voice projection. Most people's natural instinct is to look only at a few friendly faces in the front row. If you gather people in by including those in rows further back, you'll unconsciously project your voice more effectively. Of course, you'll probably have a microphone. In fact, if you're making an online presentation, that's a given. In which case, a sound check is a good idea. Have someone stand at the back of the room or listen to you online and let you know if you're fading in or out, you're too far from the microphone, voice sounds distant, you're too close, booming, spitting, S-words and letting out explosive T-words, there is any static or other interference. Actors and radio personalities regularly soften their S-words and T-words. The letter P can also be a problem if you're too close to the mic or the sound is turned up too far. Fortunately, microphones nowadays are much more sophisticated than even 5 or 6 years ago. Simply speaking in a normal voice should be sufficient. But if you're using a microphone, practicing first is always a good idea. Another way to help your voice project, make sure you are breathing properly. Breathe in through your nose, fill up your diaphragm just under your rib cage, and breathe out through your mouth by squeezing the air up directly from your diaphragm. Do this a few times before going on stage or getting up in front of your audience. Then fill your diaphragm again and start speaking while imagining you are talking right from your gut instead of your throat. There should be a noticeable difference. In fact, you may be amazed how much more resonant your voice sounds, even in your own ears. Practice reading short paragraphs aloud using this technique. From books, brochures, websites, read anything until you are comfortable and projecting your voice becomes second nature. What if I forget to breathe? There will probably be occasions when nervousness helps you throw your good voice projection techniques out the window. It happens to everybody. So what do? First, if you've taken those few deep, slow breaths before starting to speak, you are much less likely to succumb to the squeak. But if you catch yourself with a tight throat and you notice your audience is straining to hear you, there is nothing wrong with taking a page from my experienced friend Luis's book to stop and say, "Can everyone hear me?" It allows me to regroup, she explained. In the second or two they're nodding or shaking their heads, I slow my breathing, fill my diaphragm, and I'm ready to start for real. Other techniques to restart out strongly. Take a sip of water. Ask your audience a question. Start speaking to someone in the back row. Tilt your head slightly forward when speaking. It will automatically relieve strain on your vocal cords. Remember, you don't have to be perfect.